So hello and welcome to today's review on the GTA Trilogy Remaster. Is it worth a buy, or should you stay away? Now before I begin the video I just want to say that I'm playing on PC, so any PC specific things I'll leave towards the end of the video, and I did try to spend around an hour on each game. So let's start off with the graphics. I'm not going to cover the story because the story is the exact same. If you've played Vice City and completed it, there's nothing new here, but anyway, let's start off with the environments. The environments to me look absolutely fantastic, and I love how every game keeps its own unique vibe. GTA 3 still has that dull, cold, concrete jungle-like feeling to it, and Vice City is still a warm 80s neon dream location. In fact, I started with Vice City because I always found it to be the most visually appealing GTA, and I adore the lighting work done. Like driving down Ocean Drive and just seeing the neon lights lighting up the road and reflecting off Tommy and the cars was fantastic. It was a great first impression. I also noticed there was some great reflection work going on, not just with the cars either, but I'm talking in cutscenes like where Tommy meets Ken Paul, you can see his reflection in the bar. Likewise, vegetation has been improved a lot too. We can finally see grass. Can't believe I just said that, but yeah, we can finally see grass. And in San Andreas, like the Back of Beyond area, it really pops quite well. We have long tall grass, we have bushes and all that. It really sets a creepy atmosphere perfectly, which is what Back of Beyond is best known for in San Andreas anyway. However, one issue I did notice with San Andreas only is the abysmal popping with vegetation around this area specifically. I didn't have this issue with Vice City or GTA 3, but in Back of Beyond in San Andreas, the popping is abysmal. Like, you can see the grass and bushes just load in when CJ is about 2 feet from it. I'm hoping they can fix that in a patch because, you know, it doesn't look good. But when the vegetation has loaded in perfectly, it does look fantastic. Weather effects are also mostly done well, but I will say the rain doesn't look too good. I guess they tried going for the original rain style, but it looks weird and off to me. Also, one thing new here is now there's puddles forming after it rains, and this gives me PTSD of those GTA San Andreas Ultra HD 8K PS6 graphics mods, where it looks just like this. But thankfully puddles only form after it rains. Now one thing I'll admit I'm not particularly fond of are the character models. In my opinion they look horrible in cutscenes. They look fine in gameplay, but in cutscenes they look not that great. And I know this was something controversial even before release. Like when I saw the original promo screenshot of Tommy Vercetti, I was really not fond of it. And I know many people were comparing this to, you know, like The Sims and Fortnite, and I know people debated on if Rockstar should have went with a more HD approach, you know, like GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, or if the original trilogy is more cartoony anyway, but in my opinion the character models to me look rather flat and a bit too cartoony. I do think they should have went with a more realistic looking design, like what a few fan renders thought CJ and Tommy would look like in the HD era. And to me, it does feel like there's a clash in design going on here. We do have like the maps of Liberty City, Vice City and San Andreas, which do look more realistic, but the cutscenes they look flat and the cartoony models do clash with the environments quite a bit. Another major change is with the draw distance. It is set to complete maximum, and I've heard some people saying it really ruins the big open world feeling that GTA has, but to be honest I don't really think so, at least for GTA 3 and Vice City. Mostly because, you know, GTA 3 is set on the ground anyway with the exception of the Dodo, but pretty much you're going to be spending about, what, 99.9% of the time on foot anyway, and Vice City is a very small map to begin with. But for San Andreas I can completely understand why people think that having this maximum draw distance ruins that, because it really does make the map look absolutely minuscule, because you can see Mount Chiliad and Las Venturas all the way from Los Santos, and it does make San Andreas look much more tinier than it really is. Of course, back in the day, you know, like on the PS2 era, there was like fog and low draw distance to sort of mask it, and it really did make San Andreas feel bigger, but I really think they should have made like some fog effect or something, because it really does not make the San Andreas map look good at all. But yeah, for GTA 3 and Vice City, this maximum draw distance is fine, San Andreas, not so much. Now, another issue I do have is with the cutscenes. They do flat out reuse the same animations from over 20 years ago. They're not improved to look any better, and to me the 20-year-old janky animations, coupled with some rather high quality models and textures, it makes the cutscenes look like they're on an extremely low budget, like it's an amateur fan recreation made in Unity or Cinema 4D or whatever software people used to make them. I get it's a remaster and not a from the ground up remake, but to me the cutscenes do stick out like a sore thumb, and I would hope they would have ironed out the cutscenes so they look a bit more high quality. In my opinion, GTA 3 suffers the worst from this. I don't want to sound like one of those half fans did better, because I feel it is unfair on the team, who probably did their best but were limited by what Rockstar or Take-Two demanded they do. But for the cutscene animations, fans did this better. In fact, I really recommend looking at Welcome to the 80s GTA Vice City, because their work on GTA's finale cutscene is what the GTA Trilogy's cutscenes should have been like. Another thing that has not been changed in any way, shape or form is the sounds. Like, every single sound is the exact same as the originals. Excluding the menu, pretty much every sound is the same. Mopeds, car horns, gun sounds, pedestrian voices, everything is the exact same. Now, I know my tone probably just sounded a bit negative then, but to be honest, I don't really think that's a bad thing. I can understand if some people find this lazy, but to me, after playing, the Spyro Reignited trilogy back in 2018, and having half the iconic sounds gone and altered, I'm glad they kept the original sound effects here. Plus, keeping all the original voices is great too, there's no shit impersonations, and I do wonder how Ray Liotta and Young Melee feel given their hatred towards Rockstar, considering their voices are still being used and monetized today. Of course, that does bring us on to the radio. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this, the radio is mostly intact, but quite a few songs have been cut. I'm not going to go through every single list of what songs have been kept in and what songs have been removed, but yeah, I do believe it's pretty much the same as it was on the 10th anniversary edition for mobile, and the updated versions on Steam before they were pulled. So now let's actually talk about the gameplay. The controls to me, at least being a PC player, have been improved extremely well for GTA 3 and Vice City. The reason I say this is because the original versions of GTA 3 and Vice City had a rather different way of playing, and I hated it. I had to use a mod to fix it to make it play more like San Andreas 4 and 5, and I'm very happy to see the Trilogy Remaster adopt the same style without the need of a third party mod. But when playing San Andreas, it genuinely didn't feel any different from the original PC version. The controls felt the exact same, the handling felt the same, the weight of the cars and everything just felt the exact same. But speaking of controls though, handling with a single-handed gun in GTA 3 and Vice City just feels weird and not natural. Like, guns like shotguns, rifles and guns that need two hands do feel perfectly fine to aim, but single-handed guns they don't even look normal either. This once again does look like it's a fan-made Unity project or something. San Andreas doesn't have this issue at all because once again San Andreas had single-handed aiming originally anyway, so they probably just reused the exact same code or whatever. In fact, to be honest, I really do think most of this game is just built up using the exact same code from the early 2000s. But one massive change I notice is, whoever you aim at, innocent pedestrian or an enemy, they'll have this white outline surrounding them, and it reminds me of Apex Legends, how you can usually see your teammates through walls, and I can personally see this being useful in darker areas where enemies might be harder to see, but I don't really know any missions in the GTA Trilogy, at least the original GTA Trilogy, that were like that. I wish there was a way to turn it off though, because I personally am not too keen on this. Some people might, personally I'm not too keen on it, but yeah. But one massive part of San Andreas they did ruin was the weight system. I used cheats to force CJ to be buff and fat, but he kept his default skinny animations. He still had his weight quips, but no, that part has been absolutely bastardised, so we're going to have no more waddling CJ or whatever. And yeah, you can probably guess what I just said, but cheats do make a return, and all of them I do believe were the exact same as the originals. One of the first things I did upon starting up San Andreas was type BTCDBCB, HeSoIam and KVGYZQK. And those work fine, and I assume most of us do too, because I tried the jetpack cheat, the Hydra cheat, that kind of stuff. One thing to note though is using cheats does lock you better for achievements and trophies. I'm not sure if it's permanently on the save file or if it's just for the session, because it was kind of vague. Now speaking of the UI, I think the HUD looks fantastic. All three games keep their original unique HUD. Like Vice City still has that iconic pink, purple, bluish gradient going on, GTA 3 has that grungy, dimmy yellow look to it, complete with the original fonts in their respective games. But one thing you will notice as well is GTA 3's map radar has been changed. It now follows a design similar to that of GTA Vice City and San Andreas, rather than the original grungy yellow again. Secondly, the radar for all three games has been changed very slightly. Taking inspiration from Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5, the radar now has a path to direct you to your waypoint when you get in a car, or whenever you're doing a mission that needs you to go anywhere. And when you get in a car, the radar does change its camera angle and zooms out depending on your speed, much like the HD era. Another thing lifted from Grand Theft Auto 5 is all weapons have an optional weapon wheel now. Much like Grand Theft Auto 5, when swapping weapons the game blurs the background and slows down. It genuinely feels like a mod, and you don't have to use this if you don't want to. Like, when I was playing, I did not use the weapon wheel once because I'm more accustomed to just scrolling the mouse wheel up and down. But it's a fantastic addition if you wanted it, and like I said, it does feel like a mod. The third item lifted from Grand Theft Auto 5 are the mission checkpoints, and thank God for this honestly. I get for the originals implementing a checkpoint thing might not have been possible, but I'm very glad to see this. There's no more traversing half the map because you fucked up at a vital point in the mission. The wasted and busted screens have had a fantastic overhaul too. It's no longer just a screen with the word wasted or busted on it, it's now either a bloody screen or a screen with police lights. I quite like this, it gives the screens a bit more life to them. However, one thing that you might not like is every menu now has GTA San Andreas sounds, so none of that sound from Vice City when you're browsing the menu, that whom whom kind of sound. Here's a comparison. But other than that, I do think the menus look great. But speaking of that, I noticed Vice City also has the San Andreas fist icon, which is weird since, GTA 3 maintains its original fist icon. We also now have an autosave, which is good, and I do believe it saves after every mission, and it works just as it did in the HD era. You know when you save a game as Michael on your phone and you reload it and Michael's in the exact same place where he was? It's basically just like that. And once again, you do have 8 save slots. That's nothing new, nothing else to really mention here. Now, the price is quite expensive, coming in at about £55 in UK money, about $60 I think in US, and to be honest, I don't think it's worth that price. It's had less effort put into it than other remakes and remasters like Spyro Reignited, Crash Insane, Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, and even Parappa the Rapper. One thing I do find odd is you cannot buy any of them separately. Like upon purchase, every game is listed as its own individual game, unlike other trilogy remakes which require you to download one massive package to even play just the first one. Like, if I wanted to play Crash Bandicoot 2, I would need to download the entire Crash Insane trilogy. But no, here it's just listed as 3 separate games, and I really wish they would have just listed each game as its own individual purchase. Like, some people might not want to play like GTA 3, but they might just want to play Vice City again. You get that point. I'm also not a fan of how Rockstar delisted the originals from digital purchase, because when Take-Two had remasters of Mafia and Bioshock put out, even buying the remasters you got 2 copies of the game, one remastered, one classic. So if you didn't like the remaster or your PC was too weak to run it, you could still enjoy it somewhat, just by downloading the original classic versions. And fuck knows why they didn't do this with the GTA Trilogy remake either. Remake remaster, because all the original GTAs did actually run on anything past Windows 98 and newer. Now onto some PC specific problems which I had. Now I would admit that when I initially started, I thought the optimization was piss poor, because my rig runs an RTX 3060 with a Ryzen 5 3600 with 16 gigs of RAM, 12TB of storage, Windows 11. So as I'm making this, my PC is very up to date, and can handle games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Warzone and the likes with no problems at pretty high settings. And when I first started playing, GTA Vice City ran at a very, very choppy 20 to 40 FPS on most settings I tried. And it turns out it was just outdated drivers, because upon updating it did go up to a rather enjoyable 50 to 60 with a mix of high and ultra settings. Now DRM of course is a very controversial thing amongst PC gamers, but I have to say that it is very strange, because I turned my internet off, once I downloaded the trilogy. It wouldn't let me play GTA 3 offline, but it let me play Vice City without any problems whatsoever. I genuinely don't know what's going on there. In conclusion, I do think it's a pretty good remaster, but I do think it is quite overpriced for what it's worth. I'd personally pick it up in a sale, but I know some die-hard fans probably would love to just pick this up at full price. But that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching and have a great day.